The Early Weigh-In podcast is back. Man, this Saturday, finally going down at the Sphere in Las Vegas is Noche UFC, UFC 306. Big homage, to the Mexican fighting tradition. It's supposed to be a movie between each fight, man. I'm super excited for this experience. Only 10 fights, but should be good, man. We got 2 title fights up for grabs. Sean O'Malley, Merab for the bantamweight strap. And then we got the trilogy between Grasso and Valentina Shevchenko. So only 10 fights. Won't waste too much time. Recap how we finished up last week at Vegas 97, I believe that was. We'll get down to business, man. Get into these fights.
Yeah, so checking out our cards from last week, we talked about this right before. You had 2 units on the fight doesn't go the distance in the main event.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of potential for the finish whenever we were watching it out. Super impressed with Sean Brady being able to go 5 rounds, though. I think he answered a lot of questions moving forward. You had fight doesn't go the distance in Peak versus Ashmos. I mean, Peak was doing everything he could to end that fight, but Ashmos had different plans.
Right.
You did cash the Amorim wins by round 1 at plus 700 for 1.75 units. People might have to say what they got to say about that fight, but she got the sub round 1, and that was obviously an off number at plus 700. So certainly a good pickup there.
Just the person that cashed the bet, man. That's it.
Right, right. Then Andrade versus Natalia Silva, fight ends by sub. That one looked about plus 700.
It did.
Only minus 1.55 units on the night. Nothing too bad there. Looking over at my night, man, close. I mean, like close to a huge night, but it ended up just kind of busting even. I had 1.5 units on Match Snell, and I know that he got finished by Cody Durden. I make that bet again, though. Unfortunately, I make that same bet.
Yeah.
The exchanges they were getting into in that first round, I thought that was really going to work in Matt's favor, considering he hadn't been folded yet. I was like, okay, this is the fight where Matt's chin holds up. Every other fight, it's like that.
Yep.
Chris Padilla versus Zhu Rong at plus 210. That one, I just thought the line was a little off. I wasn't sure like how Padilla was going to win. I didn't think he was going to knock him out like that, to be honest with you. But that line ended up being a little off. Won 2 units there, and then I had a parlay with Ryan Spann, who ended up pulling out, and Andre Lima.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit closer of a fight, but I do think he was the rightful favorite. I ended up hitting that for 1.5 units. And then I had Gabriel Santos by submission over Zha Yi, plus 310 for 1 unit. He had his back all around 3.
Yeah.
Didn't hate that bet. I thought that it was a terrible bet the first 2 rounds because there was no upside to that at all. But that 3rd round, I thought we were going to cash that. Yeah. Only ended up the night plus 0.4 units. Somewhat forgettable, but happy to be in the green. Let's see. Moving on to the opener of this fight card, we go to the bantamweight division where we see Raul Rosas Jr. taking on Aoriqileng. Raul Rosas, he's 19 years old, and he's a minus. I think he's approaching a minus 1,000 right now, which is kind of uncharted territories for somebody that young. Weirdly enough, I do think he's probably deserving. We're going to start off this card with a bet right off the bat. I think Raul Rosas round 1 is how the UFC hopes this fight starts off. That's why they've made it here. Mm-hmm. And we talked a little bit beforehand, Aoriqileng taking that groin shot, taking the full 5 minutes, and maybe the cowardly way out. I think the UFC is kind of punishing him here, giving him Raul Rosas to jump off the card, get the Mexican fans started. Hopefully we see plus money. He is a plus or minus 1,000 though, so they might cook it a little bit. But once it drops, if it's that plus money, I'll for sure have at least 1 unit on Rosas round 1.
I like it, man. Yeah, it's hard not to come out on the Rosas side here when I was watching tape on Aoriqileng. Takedown defense, not the best. Gives up his back pretty easily. So I expect Raul Rosas to find his way to the back and likely find the submission early on as well. Talking minus 1,000, though, we're talking about a guy who's already gassed in the UFC once, a guy who's pulled out of a fight seconds before it happens against Ricky Tercios. And now it's 19 kicking off Noche UFC at the Sphere. I know the nerves are going to be there. So minus 1,000, not something I'd ever touch despite Raul Rosas being the pick. I'd actually looked at the under 1.5, which was like minus 120, minus 125, kind of cover both sides. And I'd don't necessarily know if we get that plus money number next to a round one. So I kind of anticipated looking at that under 1.5 because I'm with you, man. I think Raul Rosas probably finishes this fight pretty early. We're moving down as we move up the card to the men's flyweight division. Edgar Chairez taking on Joshua Van here. Josh Van stepping in on a bit of a short notice. I hate that he's stepping in 2 months after being knocked out, but kind of like Cody Durden stepping in against Matt Schnell. I think this is a good fight for Josh Van to get back on track, man. I think Josh Van is just clearly the better fighter, better cardio, better boxer, better top wrestling. And I truly think we see like minus 250. I think it's minus 400 if he wasn't knocked out 2 months ago. I think Josh Van's the far superior fighter, and don't even really hate a parlay piece with him in it this week.
Yeah, so I don't hate it either. They're finally starting to drop these lines for that fight. I was hoping that we'd get it before the stream started. I've bet this prop a couple of times in Josh Van's fights and not hit it. I think this is the one. This is the time, man. Fight ends by sub. Joshua Van coming off of a knockout here. He's got the grappling advantage, I think. And I think that Chairez has the style that will welcome some grappling. I think that's also – yeah, he has a lot of upside in the grappling. I think it's too early for Joshua Van to come back. If you're betting him at this favorite price tag, I think that's a questionable decision. But I do think that this fight sees the ground. I think there's going to be a lot of upside, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get plus 250 or better. Fight ends by sub. So certainly another spot that I'm looking at. Love that we're getting some action first 2 fights of the card.
Yep.
Hopefully it sets the tone. Let's see, moving down again to the women's strawweight class. We have Yazmin Jauregui taking on Ketlen Souza. Even after the Denise Gomez knockout, I still am pretty high on Yazmin Jauregui. She's only 25 years old. I think that was a learning experience. We see her come back against Sam Hughes, somebody who's extremely durable and will allow Jauregui to kind of showcase her skills. I think that we're going to get something like that again here with Ketlen Souza. I think that Ketlen's outclassed on the feet, and I don't think that she has any grappling upside. If anybody winds up on top, I expect it to be Jauregui. The unfortunate part about this, and we talked about it a little bit beforehand, Jauregui, even though she's a minus 600, she could look like a minus 600 and still not get that finish. And I'm a little worried about that. Her covering her price tag as a girl, she probably needs that finishing upside, and I'm just not seeing it right now. So probably a layoff fight for me. And even if you throw her into a parlay, which I think she wins, I do think that you're going to have to rely on some judges here, which is why I'm laying off of this fight. But Jauregui's the pick.
Jauregui is a pick for me. Little bit differing opinion on the violence, and more so because of the line. The under 2.5 is plus 210 here. I think Yazmin clear advantages on the feet and the mat. Like you said, she's finished 7 of her 11 wins by TKO in the past. And when you look at a girl like Ketlen Souza, she's been finished in all 4 of her fights as well, and has finished 9 of her 14. So she's swinging big overhand rights, which is what could potentially set Yazmin down. I do feel like majority of the finishing side is on the Jauregui side, but at plus 210, I'm thinking about a half unit or something on that, taking a little stab there. I think it's just a little bit off. I feel like the finishing side of Yazmin, a little bit better than that, man. Moving on to the lightweight division, though, this is easily one of my absolute favorite fights on the card, Manuel Torres versus Ignacio Bahamondes.
People's main event, possibly?
Yeah, potentially, man, for sure. I know a lot of people like this fight. Manuel Torres is a guy that I really, really like. I have bet multiple times. I've picked him in the fantasy league, hoping for a little bit more generous matchup here. But I like his style, man. He comes out the gates hot, sure, with all of his finishes, majority of them lately being in round 1. But I think he's just super talented, man. Almost kind of like a Diego Lopes to an extent. I think his jiu-jitsu is very good. I think he hits very hard. I think he's fast, athletic. And I think early on he is an absolute handful. Ignacio, pretty durable guy, though, man, and equally as good on the feet. I think he might be able to use that range, bait Torres in a little bit. What I'm most concerned about here is if the fight does go late. Bahamondes has shown me the cardio to go 2, to go 3, to get round 3 finishes. I've yet to see that with Manuel Torres. Could it be there? Sure. It's a big question mark, though. So I have Manuel Torres in my fantasy league, but I don't necessarily hate a bet on Ignacio at plus money. I think he's just a more proven guy. I actually think he's the better kickboxer of the two, and throw in the fact that he trains at Valet Flow Striking, which is the gym that Bilal's at, and not only just Bilal, a new champion in Bilal. I mean, I feel like that reinvigorates the fire that some guys have in that gym and things to bring a champion in. They're riding high right now, and truth be told, I think there's some value in Ignacio Bahamondes, considering around 2-3, considering money line, considering a live bet. Kind of looking to target Ignacio this week, man. Any thoughts on it?
I mean, Torres, also somebody that I've made some money on in the past. I bet him against Nicholas Mata. I bet him against Frank Camacho at -120. Man, I wish I could hit that one a little bit harder.
Yeah.
But I do think that this is a perfect matchup to allow Manuel Torres to showcase a little bit more of what we've seen. So up until this point in the UFC, he's getting all these quick finishes. Bahamondes notoriously tough, and I do think that he does his best work by accumulating damage over the course of the fight.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just a really good matchup. I see why people are interested in this. It is extremely tough for me to pick a side here, and I would have to agree that Bahamondes is the value side when you look at you've at least seen Bahamondes a few times over the course of 15 minutes. We've seen him put together a complete plan. And that just isn't the same for Manuel Torres. So Bahamondes at plus money, I don't blame you. But I do think that Manuel Torres is the real deal. So he will be who I'm rooting for. He is my official pick. I just couldn't get there laying juice on somebody who I haven't seen a full game from.
I like it.
Let's see. Okay, moving down to the bantamweight division. Irene Aldana taking on Norma Dumont. Now this is the most.
Hopefully they do a little. Yeah, hopefully they do a little flip flop there, man. I didn't even notice that this was the prelim main event.
Yeah, you'd think that they. Yeah, I'm totally with you. This shouldn't be the prelim main event, especially considering there is a path to victory for Norma Dumont to just lay on her for 15 minutes.
Yeah,
and it'd be a complete shitter of a fight.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I think we're getting value here on Irene Aldana, man. She's the type of woman who's only losing to people who are former champions, and honestly, I don't think that Norma Dumont is the same type of fighter that Irene Aldana is dropping these losses to. On top of all that, I think that Aldana will probably have the winning moments of each round. The shots that she is able to land, I think that those will weigh heavier in the judges' eyes as we come down the stretch. And then I do think that the finishing potential is also on Aldana's side if she is able to land that knockout blow that we've seen in the past. That being said, she is Mexican as well, and I would think that any close fight here, they're going to be leaning the Mexicans' way. So give me Aldana at -108. I do think that it's a favorable price tag considering she's not dropping fights to people who aren't fighting for gold, and I do not see gold in Norma Dumont's future anytime soon. So give me Aldana here. I'm sure that there'll be a round that she drops with her back flat on the mat, but I think that she'll win at least enough moments in 2 of those rounds to get the nod on the judges' scorecards.
I earlier in the week, I kind of thought that path to victory for Norma was a little bit more live. Kind of dug into it, watched some tape, and I don't know, man. I'm kind of with you. I think Aldana will do enough to keep it on the feet. I think she's going to land the way more powerful strikes that, get the judges' attention. You spoke about, just being Mexican heritage on this type of card. If you're going to beat one of these Hispanic fighters on the judges, you're really going to have to run away with the fight. You're not going to be able to leave it close. And the more I look at Irene Aldana, primarily it was the Macy Chiasson fight that leads people to think that Norma's got that path to victory here, and Macy's a big bitch, dude. Macy is a big girl. Macy's fought at 145. I'm pretty sure Macy's got a win over Norma Dumont, and she just went out. I know you cashed the under 2.5 when she went out there and choked Panty in like the first round. And then, I tried to pick a Bueno Silva finish only, and she comes out there and cuts her open with the doctor stoppage. So the more I kind of dug into it, I just sure the finish was a meme for Aldana, but getting stuck on her back by somebody Macy Chase on, I put too much stock into it when looking at this fight. I don't think Norma Dumont is near as live to land those type of takedowns to control. And again, man, anytime it's back on the feet, Aldana's going to win these moments. So minus 108, I think that's a pretty solid number. I could probably almost get to 58, 60% on Aldana here on a Mexican pay-per-view. So I dig it, man.
I think you lined that perfect. I got it minus 145.
Yeah.
That's how I think she should be.
Yeah. In agreement here, man. Kicking off the main card, Lazy Boy Ronaldo Rodriguez taking on O'Day Osbourne at 125. I'm all on board to fade O'Day Osbourne, dude. I have done it time and time again, even failed with Charles Johnson, but cashed on him the last two. I want to bet Lazy Boy just because I feel like O'Day, I feel like his IQ is not there. Even when he's a big favorite against Tyson Nam, he's going to throw stupid flying knees and get knocked out. He's going to fade late in these fights with the weight that he cuts. He has nothing off his back. But, dude, Almabayev and Filho, they have 5 times the ground game of Ronaldo Rodriguez. And I'm not so sure the takedowns are going to come easy. I do feel like Ronaldo Rodriguez at juice is probably not the right play. But I think Ronaldo Rodriguez round 2, round 3, or a live bet is a pretty solid play. I think it's proven O'Day's going to gas. Ronaldo's as tough as they come. He doesn't have the best volume, the best pace, and that's kind of why I don't want to lay some juice on him. But if I see O'Day fading, if I see tide starting to turn, I feel like a live bet on Rodriguez is pretty good, and his win condition does come into 2 and 3 when O'Day's slowing down. But on the feet, speed, striking, I don't know, man. Even maybe offensive wrestling goes to O'Day. I kind of feel like it's dog or pass at the money line. O'Day's just got too many red flags. So I am going to side with Ronaldo Rodriguez. Just was more eager to play him earlier in the week than I am now.
Yeah, I think that's solid advice. I also am not going to be laying juice on the 25-year-old who's really, had very limited experience, even on the regional scene. He lost to Jerome Rivera. He's fought his way up to which, you give him a pass because he's 21 at the time. Yeah. He puts together like a 6-fight win streak, but then you start digging into those opponents' records and they're, they lack a lot. So yeah. I think that this is a fine fight to sit back and enjoy. I've got Ronaldo Rodriguez in the fantasy league. I am rooting for him. O'Day Osbourne, 125 pounds is a really tough weight class to get an easy fight, but this sure as hell is set up for Lazy Boy here. So I do think that he's going to get the nod here. O'Day Osbourne has some difficulties like settling into fights. I think that's probably the biggest knock on him. He's getting knocked out or submitted early. And, Lazy Boy isn't somebody who is usually getting first-round finishes. He is somebody who kind of sets into the fight, but it's against the level of competition. It's really hard to see how he's going to match up against somebody in O'Day who's been in the UFC. He's been around the block. I do think that he extends this and we see a little bit more out of Lazy Boy, and I would favor him here. It's just not enough of an edge for me to play him. So totally with you. I think this is Lazy Boy's fight to lose, and it doesn't get any easier than this at 125 pounds when you go 2-0. So let's see. Up the card to the 155-pound weight class, Daniel Zellhuber taking on Esteban Ribovics. Big fan of Ribovics, man. I've bet him a few times now. I think he's one of the tougher dudes in the weight class and a little bit disrespected here. I know Zellhuber, there's a lot of people high on him as well. I think most of it has to do with his size. He has put together some decent game plans, but I think if he's a normal-sized fighter, we're not as high on him as everybody else is. We probably even with Esteban Ribovics. So I think that there's a lot of potential for Ribovics to land the harder shots here. I'm just not sure how he's going to be able to manage getting inside the distance of Zellhuber. So for that reason, I'm probably going to pick Zellhuber, and I think that he wins by decision. But I think that this fight plays out so close that if I'm picking a side here, it'll be Ribovics. I just don't know if I'm going to be able to get on that side. I also expected the Ribovics line to be more coming off I know it's Terrence McKinney, but he didn't have to wait for McKinney to gas out. That was
right.
He just shat on him. So yeah. I don't know. It is one of those things. I think that Zellhuber's the side by decision. I'd be curious to look up Zellhuber decision only. I think that there's a lot of upside for that.
We'll see if FanDuel has anything out. I was just looking at decision. That's plus 110. Nothing. I can't see the decision only yet. You might have to look at that. I have pretty similar thoughts. I think the line could be wide. It's just because I feel like it's going to go to decision. I automatically don't like to see minus 250 next to anybody's name, but then it's the underdog who's throwing 10 times harder shots. The underdog who probably has 10 times the durability. Fucking great gas tank on Ribovics too, man. I think he's a really, really good fighter. I just feel like he's going to lose a decision on Noche UFC to Mexican fighter who just keeps him at range with the jab. Probably not going to land the harder shots. He might just land 15 more significant strikes. I don't know. I would never lay minus 240, minus 250. I am on the Zellhuber side. And I bet on Ribovics is something that I guess I could advocate for and might regret not betting come Saturday. But it's hard for me to take dog shots on these pay-per-views that are catered toward a specific region of fighter, Moving on up the main card, we got a rebook fight, Brian Ortega taking on Diego Lopes, and this is at 145. I thought it was at 155 earlier in the week. I don't have faith that Brian Ortega is going to make 145. I'm just being honest with you, man. It wasn't that long ago that they tried to make this and he had health issues. And to me, he kind of seems like a teacher of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and fights on the side for some money because he's tough as nails. I like Brian Ortega. I like what he represents. But in terms of who I think's sharpening their craft every day, who's more dedicated to the game and everything right now, man, that's 100% Diego Lopes. What I did not like to see was, we've seen all these early finishes, and it was a big concern that he'd slow down, and he did against the Dan Ige fight. Now, I know it was a couple weight changes, short notice opponent, not fighting, I am fighting. Maybe it played into the fight. But if Lopes is not able to get the back and ride out time, I don't know how that fight truly goes, And so if he slows down and he's not able to get the back of Brian Ortega, I just don't know. I'm picking Diego Lopes. I honestly think the line could be right. Diego could steamroll him. He's way more athletic. He could probably match the jiu-jitsu. He hits harder. It's just the unknowns of what if he gasses and his jiu-jitsu doesn't work. Is somebody like that can nullify that going to be able to take over? Brian's tough. Brian's got the gas tank, and he's probably got the jiu-jitsu that could match it and stay safe. So picking Diego Lopes, just no bet, sit back and enjoy this fight for me, man.
Yeah, so I also think it's kind of weird when they first scheduled this bout, Ortega opened as the favorite. Now it didn't end like that before he pulled out, but the odds makers had opened Ortega as the favorite, and now we've seen that line flipped after the performance with Diego Lopes and Ige. I thought that it'd probably remain the same. I still think that there's questions to be answered on the Lopes side. It is nice to see him getting majority finishes in the fights that he has had, and Dan Ige is a really tough opponent to finish.
Right.
But I do kind of question where Brian's head is at this point in his career. I think that he knows that there is a level that he probably won't reach. And unfortunately, it's like, as long as Max Holloway's up there, as long as Ilia Topuria is up there, I think he gets that the gold is probably far from reach. It might be beneficial for him, like you said, to move up to 155, try and claim that BMF belt. I think that that's actually like an opportunity for him to grab some gold because the very top of the division, I do think that he'll struggle to find wins against him.
Doesn't Max have that right now too?
Yeah. I didn't think about that. Yeah, you're right. For this one though, man, I don't know what the line is, and historically not a good bet. So take this with a grain of salt. Yeah, you can get plus money on the under 2.5. I think these guys are go for broke fighters. I know it's the top level of 145 and they're notoriously durable, but I just think stylistically, both these guys are looking for the finish. They both take enough risks that I think that it'll be there for each guy. And so if I can see finishing potential for both sides and still get plus money on the under, that is definitely something that I'll be taking a look at. And who doesn't want to cheer for violence in an Ortega Lopes fight, you know?
That's right.
Let's see. Moving up to the co-main event, my girl,
Yes,
Alexa
sir.
Grasso, the champion, taking on Valentina Shevchenko. In their trilogy fight, I think that this is all Alexa Grasso. The only question is whether or not she shored up a little bit of that grappling defense. I think Valentina knows at this point that that's kind of the only area of MMA that she wants to dance around with that Alexa Grasso. I do think that Alexa Grasso's on par with her boxing. Now, pure kickboxing, obviously Valentina's going to have the advantage, but the pace that Alexa pushes, the combos that she's able to put together, I think she has faster hands, and I think it's probably gonna show. And as these two girls age, Valentina's only getting older. Alexa Grasso in her prime. If she can stuff just a few of those takedowns that Shevchenko was able to land in their first two, I think that she'll roll here. So I do think that it's Grasso, and I think it's Grasso by decision. This is a fight where I have a ton of personal bias in, and I am going to be laying off. Me and you both, we cashed the Alexa Grasso plus 460. You put me on the submission at plus 2,200.
Yeah.
We've got that huge ROI betting Alexa Grasso. I don't want to mess that up, you know? So this is going to be a layoff fight for me. And if I do find anything, if I can get Grasso by decision at like plus 200 maybe, but I'm not even sure that we're going to get anything like that. So Grasso by decision is the play for me.
I know she's always been your girl, but I've kind of always been a little bit of a doubter, is more or less, this is a women's fight, a title fight. No one should be plus 470. Valentina just come off a fight where she had her back taken, been, stalled out, and probably should have lost to Talia Santos. So I was like, plus 2,200 sub. You're good.
There is one plus 100 or plus 200 for Grasso decision right now. They're all getting bet down to plus 175 on FanDuel. And I'm going to be tracking that like as we speak right now. Alexa Grasso by decision.
If you play Alexa Grasso, I do think that probably holds value and would be the only way I play it too. As somebody that I've kind of always doubted a little bit, I'm happy to have got my cash and ran when the time was right, because when she loses, I'm going to be like, damn it, Preston, you've known for years that you shouldn't bet her, especially at chalk. The thing about it is, you said it, she's in the absolute prime of her career. Shevchenko's 36, 37 years old. These champions are half the time not successful in getting their belt back. We saw her hurt and dropped last time out in that fight. She has been submitted. But I do think that she probably won that last fight, man. I don't think a 10-8 was warranted. Watching that fight back, plus money is very tempting on Shevchenko when she pretty much won majority of the minutes prior to the choke. When I thought she should have won that second fight, plus money is enticing. But I just, again, do I want to fade a Mexican fighter in a close fight who already got awarded a 10-8 on a Noche UFC event before, and here we are at the Sphere doing it all over again. So it's a pass for me. Going to pick Alexa Grasso. I think she steals another decision here, man. I think you're going to cash your bet.
Steals? You don't think it's going to be convincing?
I don't think it's going to be convincing. I do.
All
not.
right.
I do not. I think 49-48 on two cards. I think Shevchenko is going to win on one card. I think it's split.
You think Shevchenko gets those takedowns that she did in the first two?
I do.
Okay, because that's the only way, right, that it's a close 100%. Fight. Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you. But it's really and always has been offensive or defensive grappling of Grasso that's concerned me. Man, O'Malley, Merab Dvalishvili for the 135 belt. I like Sean O'Malley, man. I was really, hitting myself for not betting it at plus 115 earlier when the line dropped. I really thought that Merab was going to take some money. I did not expect this line to flip. Sean O'Malley, to me, I don't want to say it's the Conor McGregor effect, but he brings, I don't want to say aura into the cage, but there's a certain like aura that you got to get past before you even get in a fight with Sean O'Malley. It's just the mental hurdle to even getting in there with him that you got to get past first. And then when you do, you've got like a 6-foot bantamweight in there with footwork like no other, with distance management like no other. There is not a bantamweight on the roster, maybe Corey Sandhagen, that I think could go toe-to-toe with O'Malley on the feet. I truly think that if you line a kickboxing fight in the bantamweight division, he's a favorite over just about everybody. I think his striking skills are on that level. The thing with Merab, he doesn't even have to have the wrestling chops, man. Just the pace and the relentless pressure, the takedown attempts, it stifles your game. It makes you fight very defensive. It doesn't allow you to get your offense off. And I am worried about that for Sean, who needs that space, who needs that footwork to be able to get his game going. I'm not sure if Merab's going to give him that space. And Merab, it's hard for me not to envision rounds 4 and 5 going to him. He's got maybe the best gas tank in the UFC, man. It almost seems like unlimited. So it's a tough fight, man. I really wish I got Sean O'Malley at plus money. I do think Sean O'Malley is live for a TKO in the first 3 rounds of this fight. And that's what I'm going to think happens. So I'm going to pick Sean O'Malley, stick with my gut, but at plus money, it's hard not to back the cardio of Merab, Close fight. I probably won't have a bet on it, man, but give me Sugar Sean.
You might feel like you missed out on the plus money Sugar Sean, but I've got a way to get it all back, brother.
Let's do it. Let's hear it.
Sean O'Malley by submission plus 2,100, dude. Let me just play this out for you. All right. He's 4 rounds down. Merab keeps on getting these takedowns. You think that on that 5th round, he isn't going to sell out for the guillotine that we've seen him submit way better, way more accomplished grapplers than Merab Dvalishvili? In a
grappling match.
I think that Sean has a super underrated submission grappling game. And because of his highlight finishing reel, they want to just say that every single time he gets a finish, it's going to be a knockout. And I think he's going to wake people up here, man. He will have the opportunity to get like 20-plus looks on takedown entries from Merab. Merab's he's been gillied in the UFC before by lesser talent. I mean, dude, plus 2,100. It was plus 1,900 earlier this week, and I almost hit it. Now I'm looking at it at plus 2,000 or better. I will be putting 0.25 sprinkle on that. I think that there's a ton of potential for it, especially if Sean can't get that knockout in the early 3 rounds. What does he have to lose in the 4th and 5th round to sell out for a sub? Give me that plus 2,100.
Can't wait to clip this. Put it on the internet later this week.
Yes, dude. So, yeah, Sean O'Malley's the pick for me. Ton of upside with him getting the finish early. But I do think that if it doesn't work out early, he will search for that submission at least once. And at plus 2,100, I think that there's value. I think that there is plenty of value for me to make a sprinkle on it. And like you said, it's a really tough fight to call. So give me a long shot. Give me, one of the least likely things to happen when I can clearly see it happening. So, yeah.
I like it, man. Both on Sugar Sean O'Malley. That's all 10 fights for UFC Noche going down at the Sphere this Saturday. I'm excited for it, man. Different type of viewing experience, the movies, the Easter eggs, all kind of things that's supposed to be in here. Should be a cool event. And we got the week off to digest our results before we get back in the UFC a week after that. I appreciate you guys always watching, hanging out with us. Make sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.
Peace.